Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is our lecture number 5 under the course of Educational Psychology EDUC 3112, and the chapter number 3 will be taught in this lecture, which is learning. In the previous lectures we have studied chapter number 1 and 2. One was about introduction to psychology, in which schools of thought and nature of psychology and teaching agenda were discussed, and unit number 2 was about human development, growth and development, and its nature and factors were discussed. Now in this lecture number 5 we will go through the chapter number 3, which is learning, and theories and process of learning along with the definition and concept of learning will be discussed. So here we go. Learning, definition of learning, learning theories and learning process. Before starting, let's see, what do you think about learning? The concept of learning is about what? Do you think is it a totally psychological term, or you think it that we use it in daily basis? In our day-to-day life we use this term. Memorization of some material is not learning, that is memorization. So learning is notification of behavior through experience. It involves the acquisition of habits, knowledge and attitudes that you learn, and you do not forget whenever the similar situation occurs, and you behave in the same manner in which you have learnt. Learning is a process by which behavior changed through practice or training. So as a layperson we can define it as learning is a continuous permanent change in behavior that occurs due to the experience. Positive permanent change in behavior that is the result of experience. There are so many types of learning. We will go through these one by one. Motor learning. Our day-to-day activities like walking, running, driving, etc. must be learned from ensuring a good life. These activities to a great extent involve muscular coordination. So whatever the muscular coordination is involved, those activities, those are read under motor learning. Verbal learning, by its name, what do we assume? That our communication and how likely different forms of communication are practiced by our language development, such as symbols, words, languages, sounds, figures and signs. This is verbal learning. Third is concept learning. This form of learning is associated with high order cognitive processes. What is high order cognitive processes? Some are lower level thinking and some are higher order thinking processes. High order thinking processes like intelligence, thinking, reasoning, which we learn right from our childhood in our different capacities. Concept learning involves the processes of abstraction and generalization. Abstraction means that the things which are not tangible, but you can even grasp the idea of those feelings, those emotions, those things. And generalization is that you can apply a simple formula to the related situation with the similar meaning or the context relevant meaning, which is very useful for identifying or recognizing things. So this is concept learning. These are the types of learning. Some other three types are discrimination learning, learning of principles and attitude learning. Discrimination means that learning which distinguishes between various stimuli with its appropriate and different responses is regarded as discrimination stimuli. You must have heard about stimulus, that in the response of any stimulus you produce some reactions. So you can, under this learning, one can discriminate or make a difference that what stimuli is given. Learning of principles, learning which is based on principles, or rules helps in managing the work most effectively. Principles based learning explain the relationship between various concepts. So next is attitude learning. Attitude shapes our behavior. We can say that attitude is one part of behavior. So it shapes our behavior to a very great extent, as our positive or negative behavior is based on our attitudinal predisposition. So the behavior is determined by our attitude. From here to onward, we are going to start the second portion of this unit, which are learning theories. So before starting, because it is going to be a very comprehensive and detailed theories, one by one we will discuss these. We must having an idea that what is theory and what is learning. Learning is a positive permanent change in behavior that lasts for a longer period of time, and that is a result of experience. And theory, the continuous and mostly experimented things, whenever they become rules and regulations, that become a part of theory. So many psychologists have been working on learning, and they have determined some theories based on different things. They claim that individuals learn differently. Sometimes they learn by trial and error. एक दफ़ा कोशिश करेंगे, गलती करेंगे, बार बार करेंगे तो उससे सीखेंगे. Some say learning occurs by conditioning. If we put some condition and keep giving the reward, then learning occurs. Some say no, it is not a game of trial and error and giving reinforcement and reward or punishment. It is about cognition. Whenever you use your mind and mental processes, learning occurs. Some other says that social emotional development and circumstances put a weight on the effective learning. Some say it is totally socially context bound, and some says no, it is about insight learning. So these are the different claims of different psychologists. They have worked, and most of the psychologists have experienced on the animals. They done experiments on the animals, and then they concluded and formed different theories of learning. So start from here one by one. Trial and error theory. Learning means establishing proper bond between stimulus and response. This theory is also called connectionism. According to Thorndike, learning is a mechanical process. We learn from mistakes. The correct responses are rewarded. So in this theory, you make a mistake. They claim that learning does not occur in one attempt. We learn from our mistakes, and if we during that period of time we do something correct and that is rewarded, that behavior or action is likely to happen again in the similar situation. Learning is a process of acquiring and stabilizing successful and eliminating the unsuccessful. So in the case of reward, that will be successful, and in the case of negative response, that will be eliminated. Number second is learning by conditioning. This is another theory under which classical conditioning is reported, a learning response that you do when evoked by a stimulus. Under this theory, Pavlov has performed experiments with dogs to collect a collection of saliva. He noticed that dog would salivate when meat was presented. So he does his experiments on dogs. According to this experiment, Pavlov associated the ringing of a bell with the presence of powdered meat to a dog. Whenever he used to ring the bell, the saliva was produced. And later on, he associated another thing, added one more thing, that is meat and bell together. He rang the bell every time the dog was served with food. Later, he started ringing bell and the dog would salivate without the powdered meat being presented. Thus, dog learned the response. So, in this way, the desired response was produced. Next is learning by conditioning. Under this, we will see the operant conditioning theory. It is a process that attempts to modify behavior through positive or negative reinforcement. So you must have heard about the concept of reinforcement. These are of positive as well as of negative. Mostly we use positive reinforcement to keep continuing the behavior to occur, and negative to avoid some behavior or to eliminate some behavior. An individual makes an association between a particular behavior and consequences. Any reward or prize from parents or teacher is an example of reinforcement. Learning by conditioning. Skinner box is a small chamber in which an animal learns how to make a particular response for which the consequences are controlled. This is about another example, which experiment which was done by Skinner. Reinforcement. What is the concept of reinforcement? It says any event that strengthens or increases the behavior it follows, it called reinforcement. So if we want to strengthen the behavior or increase the behavior, we use the reinforcement. And being teachers, it is very important that whenever you are trying to mold the behavior or increase or strengthen the behavior of a good behavior of a student, so you provide some reinforcement. It is positive as well as negative. Positive reinforcers are favorable events that are presented after the behavior, and it includes positive reinforcer strengthens a response by addition of prizes or rewards. Simple example: as child performs well and that behavior needs to be reinforced, so the teacher provides a candy to that student at a smaller grade. Negative reinforcer involves removal of an unpleasant event, and the simple example of it, a response is strengthened by punishment. So this is called negative reinforcer. What is the purpose of these two? We are just trying to strengthen or increase the behavior, so reinforcers are used. Experiment. A hungry rat was placed in the Skinner's box, and every time it pressed the lever it was rewarded with food, which was used to reinforce its behavior. If he pushes the lever correctly, he will be presented with the food. Eventually the rat accidentally touched the lever and the food was released. So he learned. The same sequence was repeated, and with more trials the time taken to press the lever is decreased. The random movements of the rat eventually became deliberate, and rat then got food as fast as it could press the lever. So he learned it. Next is your cognitive theory of learning. Cognitive learning theory is about understanding how the human mind works while people learn. The theory focuses on how information is processed by the brain. So regardless of the trial and error and conditioning, operant or classical, it says that how information is processed by the brain, it explains the theory of learning, and how learning occurs through that internal processing of information. It is based on the idea that people mentally process the information they receive rather than simply responding to a stimuli from their environment. So every time you just do not only respond to the stimuli in the environment, but sometimes you process the information in your mind that you receive, and then accordingly you behave. The cognitive learning theory is credited to psychologist Jean Piaget. He believed knowledge is something that is actively constructed by learners based on their existing cognitive structures. So it is something actively constructed by learners. It means that it is a mental process that occurs in the mind of the learner, and according to that, as a result of that process, he or she behaves. Cognitive learning process, how does it occur? It says cognitive learning is centered on the mental processes by which the learner takes in, he interprets, stores and retrieves the information. These mental processes occur between stimulus or the input and response or the output. The individual takes in the stimulus, processes it in their mind and then acts upon the stimulus. So it is evident that mind processes is like a computer. You give some input and it processes the information and then produce the outcome or output. So this is explained how cognitive learning process occurs. And the cognitive learning process, it says those mental processes have several elements including attention, observing, perception, interpreting, organizing, memorizing, categorizing and forming generalization. So you must have heard these terms. Attention means you put some attention, you see the things with care. Observing means you take some notes and observe the phenomena occurring around. Perception means every individual have different perception how to take the topic, how to perceive the information at start. Interpretation is a subjective term. Each individual interprets the same situation in different and own ways by using his or her cognition. Organizing means there are so many schemas in your mind and you organize their occurring one by one, so to analyze the situation in a good way. Memory means you memorize, you keep memorizing the material, the things, the situations you are going through. Categorizing means you can categorize a good or a negative, positive or a negative situation. Forming generalizations, on the basis of the perceptions you can form a generalization. Generalization means you can apply the results of one thing over a population or over the similar conditions or events. Next, number 4 is Ausubel's meaningful learning theory. According to this, meaningful learning takes place when an idea to be learned is related in some sensible way to the ideas that learner already process. So the new learning is not occurring separately, it is associated with the previous one. Ausubel believed that before new material presented effectively, the student's cognitive structure should be strengthened. So this is why we believe that students are asked with the questions relevant to their previous learning, so that teacher can recognize the cognitive structure of the student and later on he can build up with the new concepts through teaching. Purposes of meaningful learning theory. It is very helpful for the students as well as teachers. It helps introduce a new lesson, unit or course. So it helps summarizing major ideas in new lesson. Whenever you teach a new lesson, it has some link with the previous one, so it is a good way to memorize and summarize in a good way. Summarization based on students' prior knowledge. So prior knowledge is very important. Without the prior knowledge you cannot build up new ideas. Most of the time you link the knowledge with the previous knowledge. Shows similarities between old and new material, so one can identify that what is new and what is old. Allow students to apply and share knowledge. So this is a good way that how likely students can apply and share the knowledge with one another. Helps teach complex concepts that are similar to the information learned previously. This is similar to the other one with the prior knowledge, that complexity of the concepts cannot be learned at one time unless or until they are associated with the previously learned information which is relevant to that complex concept. On number 5th, we will see the constructivist theory. It is an epistemological belief about what knowing is and how one comes to know. Learning is an active process in which learner constructs new ideas based upon current knowledge. Construction of knowledge. Major aspects of constructivist theory. It says predisposition to learn, readiness for learners. Unless learners are not ready to learn the new information, they cannot learn. So it is helpful. Structure of knowledge, the way in which body of knowledge can be constructed, how they can construct the new information with the previous one. Effective sequencing presentations of lessons in increasing difficulty level. Whenever the difficulty level is increased, how effective sequenced presentations can be helpful. Reinforcement, reward and punishment, that should be selected, paced appropriately. Selected and paced appropriately. Whenever the learning occurs, if it is enforced by reward and punishment, that is likely to be permanent. Next is social learning theory. According to this, it was presented by Albert Bandura. He emphasized the importance of observing and modeling the behaviors, attitudes and emotional reactions of others. So it is based mostly on how you learn in the society. Bandura 1977 states, learning would be exceedingly laborious, not to mention hazardous, if people had to rely solely on the effects of their own actions to inform them what to do. So basically it is about the importance of observing and modeling the behaviors, attitudes and emotions of others. What are the steps of social learning theory? These are described in preceding 2 slides. Number 1 is attention, including modeled events and observers' characteristics. When you pay some attention. Retention, it including symbolic coding, cognitive organization, symbolic rehearsal and motor rehearsal. It means that how you interpret something, retain that. Motor reproduction, including physical capabilities, self-observation of reproduction and accuracy of feedback. And through motivation, which is including external, vicarious and self-reinforcement. This is how these are the components of social learning theory. What is the application of this theory? Social learning theory has been applied extensively to the understanding of aggression and psychological disorders, particularly in the context of behavior modification. And it is not easy to modify some behavior. If behavior modification is the target, so many psychological disorders such as aggression etc. are to be dealt. It is also the theoretical foundation for the technique of behavior modeling, which is widely used in training programs. So in the training programs it is very well applied. Number 7th, which is the last theory in the unit, is about Kohler's insight learning. This theory is related to the cognitive type of theory of learning. It was developed by Gestalt psychologist. And what was about Gestalt psychology? The major agenda was that whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So the main exponents are Kohler, Kafka and Max Wertheimer. They are the proponents or exponents of this theory. Kohler's insight learning theory says it advocates that when a particular situation is being learned, it does not help to learn it in parts, but it helps to learn it as a whole, because they say it is a Gestalt psychology. So it is about focuses on the whole rather than the parts. Learning is an exploratory, purposive and creative activity, but not a trial and error method of activity. So they say whatever you learn, that is a detailed phenomena, and that is learned as a whole rather than parts. Learning means reorganization of the perceptual field. Reorganization means there are so many events and parts, you reorganize that and perceive them as a whole. Learning is dependent upon intelligence of the individual. This is something new. It is not about trial and error, it is about the intelligence of the individuals. How did it was explained? Through experiment, that Wolfgang Kohler conducted experiments through chimpanzees in a laboratory at Canary Island. He inserted a hungry chimpanzee in a cage and hung bananas at the ceiling and placed a stick and a wooden box inside. So chimpanzee tried to catch the banana by standing on the box, but it could not. Then the hungry chimpanzee sat in the corner and tried to grasp the situation by analyzing how to take the bananas. So the mental process has been started here. A sudden insight appeared in its mind and it jumped at the top of the wooden box and hid the bananas with the help of the stick. This is one experience. Later on, instead of the above methods, Kohler also conducted various experiments by placing the bananas outside the box and placing two sticks out inside the box, and by removing the wooden box. These are the situations which are turn by turns changed, and with the insight the chimpanzee learned how to take the bananas. With a sudden bright idea, the chimpanzee tried to reach the banana by joining the two sticks. Results of this experiment. The results of the experiments are: learning is achieved not by trial and error method but on the chimpanzee's intelligence. So it is important that whenever you are in a situation, your intelligence and mental process is explained to be there. The whole situation has to be understood along with the inner relations involved therein. One can solve the problem through the experience gained. So the tendency, the likelihood to repeat that is also there. So after going through these theories one by one, we will see that what is the educational significance of these theories, because they were mostly experimented on the animals and their results and theories are generalized on the human beings. And in the context of educational psychology, these applications, their applications are significant contributions. This theory of learning is helpful in constructing a curriculum, structuring the instructional material, and deploying the teaching methods. So the direct application of these theories is under the curriculum and its structuring and organizing, and whatever the material and methods adopted by the teachers are there. The matter to be taught should be presented as a whole. So it is a good application of the theory that we should present the whole subject matter. This theory emphasizes the utility, organization, and the meaningfulness of a lesson. This is about the last theory we have learnt, which is what is to be taught should be organized logically. There should be no encouragement for learning by rote memory. So rote memorization should be discouraged, and we should encourage the logical thinking. The principle of whole should be incorporated. Whole means all at once. The all procedure should be incorporated in the construction of curriculum and syllabus. Subjects should be perceived as a whole. Instead of learning in parts, whole should be focused and emphasized. The learners should be motivated, and their interest and curiosity of the curriculum and syllabus should be encouraged. Subject should be perceived as a whole. The scientific methods as well as the analytical and problem solving methods should be given greater importance, because they all parts are important. This method stimulates the powers of imagination, discrimination and thinking. So this is further the application of this theory, that imagination, discrimination and thinking is improved if we apply this theory. The last topic of this lecture is about the process of learning. What it does say: the process of learning is continuous. There is no point of time in your life that you stop learning. Learning occurs throughout your life, which starts right from the birth of an individual and continues till the death. We all are engaged in the learning endeavors or tries in order to develop our adaptive capabilities as per the requirement of the changing environment. So whenever you are moving onward, you need to adapt according to the new situation. For a learning to occur, two things are important. Number one, the presence of a stimulus in the environment, and the innate dispositions like emotional and instinctual dispositions. So one thing is from outside, which is external stimulus, and the other thing is your innate or inside dispositions, and whether those are emotional or instinctual, that persuades you to learn or provide a response according to that stimulus. The key characteristics of the learning process, those are these. The key characteristics of the learning process are: when described in the simplest possible manner, learning is described as an experience acquisition process. So it is a detailed experience. In the complex form, learning can be described as the process of acquisition, retention and modification of experience. So we cannot say that once learnt remains the learning all the time, but acquisition, then its retention, and sometimes the modification of experience explains the learning. It re-establishes the relationship between stimulus and the response. So we have learned that when presented with the stimulus, we produce some response. So the established relationship between stimulus and response is explained by learning. It is a method of problem solving and is concerned about making adjustments with the environment. So whenever you encounter with the environment, you do problem solving as well as you make some necessary adjustments with the society. On the last, we will see the key characteristics of the learning process further. It involves all those gamut of activities which may have a relatively permanent effect on the individual. So whatever is learned, that has as a whole impact, permanent effect on that individual. The process of learning is concerned about experience acquisition, retention of experience and experience development in a step by step manner. synthesis of both old and new experiences for creating a new pattern. This is how we can proceed and come to the new situations that we at first we have some experience. Under that experience we have acquisition, retention of experience, and the experience retention step by step, and we can have the ability to synthesize the both old and new experiences for creating a new pattern. Learning is concerned about cognitive and affective aspects. So it is about mostly your cognitive and affective aspects. What is about cognitive? Cognitive is related to your mental process, mind and mental processes, whereas affective related to your attitudes and behavior. Knowledge acquisition process is cognitive, and any change in the emotions is affective, and cognitive is acquisition of new habits or skills. So it says that the concept of learning is surrounded by cognitive as well as affective domain. So at the last we will see what is the overview of the lecture. In this lecture we have seen the definition and nature of learning. Then we have seen 7 learning theories presented by different psychologists in the field of educational psychology and psychology. And then we have seen the characteristics of learning process, and some of its application can be made on the learning process in the context of education. So I hope you have learned well. Good luck and thank you.